Hi, this is your Sapnil Bhartiya and welcome to Mainframe Matters. And today we have two co-chairs of the Modernization Working Group of the Open Mainframe project, Misty Decker and Bruno Azenha. Misty, Bruno, it's great to have you both on the show.
Thank you so much, Swapnil.
Thank you for inviting us.
It's my pleasure and honor to have you folks here. I would like to, first of all, understand what is the goal of the Modernization Working Group? Please talk about it.
I've been in the mainframe modernization space for a very long time, and one of the things that really frustrated me is the definition of that word. Modernization means different things to different people, and I think it causes a lot of confusion. So some people assume you understand that modernization means updating your mainframe environment, and other people assume that modernization means exiting the mainframe. These are completely opposite definitions for what is the one same word. So I propose that we create a working group through the Open Mainframe Project to define that word across the industry and create a repository of thought leadership material so that people understand what modernization means and what they can do. And I reached out to Bruno to ask him to join me on this crazy adventure.
Yes, that's right, Misty. And I think my motivation is also very similar to Misty. My career has been revolved around large-scale transformation and modernization programs. And on my current role, I'm actually focusing on application modernization, and mainframe is a component of it. And I did feel a bit of a challenge when interacting with customers and partners on sometimes very narrow or very religious definitions on how to go about mainframe. And I think the context where organizations operate and what they want to achieve should shape the modernization options, and should be more open about all the different paths. And I think that's one of the things that myself and Misty and the rest of the working group are trying to bring is some clarity and pros and cons and be vendor agnostic. It's really try to be faithful to the purpose of defining what it is, what options, and when they work well and when maybe not such a great idea.
How would you folks define modernization?
The definition that the group reached is a bit longer than what I'm going to state, but I would succinctly describe it as whatever you need to do to make your current IT stack, including the mainframe, meet your current needs and the future needs of your business. So that's succinctly what it is. It's a very broad definition, but modernization really is different from other software development in that it's about updating what you already have to achieve a business objective. So that's the main difference of modernization versus other software development, is that it's about keeping, minimizing the changes, minimizing the disruption, and being able to move forward to better meet your business needs.
And if I'm not wrong, Misty, I think the group was announced at the Open Mainframe Summit back in 2022, and I think you and I with another colleague of your, Derek, I think we sat down and had a discussion there. Can you talk about, because I remember you folks at that time was talking about, coming up with the definition that you explained in the beginning, framework. So talk about how much progress has been made since the project was founded.
Yes, we announced it at the Open Mainframe Summit in 2022. And the first year was really focused on trying to generate interest, get participation, and generate a common definition. And that process was kind of like wrestling an alligator because everybody had a different perspective. We did eventually get to a definition, which, as I hinted at earlier, I would have made it shorter, but this is a open source consortium, so that was what the group wanted to do. So we left it the way that the group voted for. And we then moved on to trying to build a repository of thought leadership content. We have curated some content, and we were working on trying to find the right tooling for a repository when our team went and refocused our efforts because we were just not getting enough interest in people trying to leverage that repository yet. So we decided we really needed to focus in on our public presence and driving demand before we invested too much time in building a repository. So that's where our efforts for, I'd say, about the last 6 months or so have been on is generating interest in that thought leadership. And right now we are driving 3 summer internship projects.
Yeah, I think, and adding to that, um, because it's an open working group, everyone can come in and participate. We also struggle with the fact that it comes out of your volunteering time, which, because people that are part of this group also have their day jobs, which is related to this topic, that consumes a lot of time and energy. It's hard to get some sort of consistent critical mass. So that's why things not always go as fast as we would like. But I'm hoping that this becomes also this chat that we are having becomes also a way to generate interest, because we do have quite a few things on our pipeline and on our to-do list that we'd like to do. We just need more hands to come in and contribute. And right now, I think a very exciting initiative around the mentorships is getting through white papers related to modernization topic, and also a series of educational videos. And that is something that we're hoping that it gets really more attention. And we have blogs and participation in events that we've been kind of putting on hold just because of that lack of enough critical mass to drive consistency and speed.
And when you say that generate interest, it's like awareness education, what kind of interest, who should be interested, who are you trying to reach out to?
I personally think that this working group is great for people that are somehow involved in the topic, whether more technical or more on the business side, making use of functions and capabilities that mainframes provide, and want to first contribute, but also learn together, because as a community we do brainstorm and exchange ideas, and really help shape this definition, what it means to do modernization, and have, let's call it, vendor agnostic set of facets to help you decide as a consumer how you could go about modernization. And one of the challenges is that there's loads of material about modernization, but it's always a bit biased towards what the enterprise that is building those materials wants to put out. What we're trying to do is actually look at all of those perspectives and bring them all together and say, here's different options, but here's the pros and cons, and have this kind of constructive discussion. So anyone that has a business or technology interest around modernization in mainframes should be part of it, because we'd love to have more perspectives, and the outputs of what we're doing is going to become just richer the more people get involved.
I can add to that some specific details of how people can contribute. If you're a business person, this project can give you a place to get visibility to your thought leadership on mainframe modernization topics. So you can nominate content for the repository. If someone wants to volunteer to help us figure out the best way to deliver that repository and make it searchable, we have an opening for that as well. We also are taking people that would like to write white papers, which would be reviewed by the Open Mainframe Project volunteers. It would be an open source white paper, but you would be the primary author. You would get collaborators. And the advantage of that is if you write a white paper for your own individual company, it is perceived as being biased by that company's financial interests. When you publish it through the Open Mainframe Project, it is pure industry-wide thought leadership. So we are looking for authors as well. So content suggestions could be videos, white papers, surveys, research, analyst reports, anything that you think is really key and useful. Building a repository is very helpful, and writing original content and becoming a published author. Those are my main categories. Anything else, Bruno?
Yeah, and I would add even representation of the working group in industry events, because there's events on modernization topic a bit all over the place, and we are a distributed team currently across at least 3 continents or 4. And there's events there, and it would be great that our members also, because they sometimes are participating in these events, go and also represent this working group, and I think it's a win-win.
So you can be a speaker and we will help you with the content. So, you know, we hand you the pitch and then you stand up and get to present it and become a speaker. So that's a pretty good deal too, right?
I will go back to the point that either I think Bruno you're making or Misty you're making, was that to attract folks who are in the mainframe space. What about just regular modern developers? Is it only for those who know mainframe, or is for every developer out there who wants something challenging, something modern, something new, something which is powering this world?
Modernization is not just a mainframe thing, right? It's modernizing is taking whatever you have and making it better meet your business needs. So those skills are technology independent. And so we definitely welcome people that would bring their perspective of other platforms and other technologies into that modernization conversation. And the other point I'll make is modernization has become, for the first time in my entire career, a very hot topic. Very, very hot. I lead modernization practice for Kyndryl here in the US, and I am so busy. I'm getting calls every day from customers that said, we've talked about modernizing before, but now we're finally really going to do it. Or I have a modernization strategy that's been on a 10-year plan and now it's urgent and we need to accelerate that. So this is the perfect time to learn about mainframe modernization. It is urgent, it's timely, and we need skills from other platforms to help make us all better.
I think there was a natural group that I was alluding to, but there's these people that will have interest or will be somehow related on the modernization journey. So yes, it's open to everyone.
Do you folks also work with other working groups within Open Mainframe project?
Absolutely. We just launched an effort to meet regularly with the chairs of a few other projects because we do believe that there's some overlap. The COBOL working group is, as you talked to Derek Britton about a couple of years ago, they're very much interested in COBOL for the future. So that is modernization, but the COBOL slice of it. The education project, a lot of what we're doing is educating people about mainframe modernization topics as well as methods. So we are trying to find collaboration with them. And of course, a lot of what we're doing is just trying to educate people, across the industry. So we're working closely with the marketing group as well.
Do you also work with universities? I had a panel discussion also with some professors, that to get greenhorn, students.
So right now we're not doing anything special for the universities. We're mostly just trying to support the other existing Open Mainframe project efforts. But we do have our 3 summer interns. All 3 are college students that are taking on special projects. We have one student who is creating a series of educational videos. He is interviewing a number of industry experts, and he is collecting their thoughts so that each video will focus on a particular technical topic and show a variety of viewpoints on that topic. And then Bruno is leading the other 2 students. So Bruno, if you could give us an update on what those projects are.
So right now we are working on 2 white papers, one around obviously AI, because it's the hot topic, and how you can unlock legacy data sitting on mainframe and how you can ingest, consume, and process that data, and where should you run these AI workloads. So that's one of the topics of these 2 white papers. The other one is an interesting take on modernizing applications. So the title, which is still work in progress, is going to be along the lines on what makes programming languages to stick around or disappear into the valley of shadows of death. And the concept is like COBOL or not, or like a specific language or not, there's actually a set of characteristics that will dictate if a certain programming language has what it takes to keep being useful for the developers and keep being useful for the business to solve business problems. So you're trying to come up with a way to objectively assess not only COBOL but any programming language, with a bit of a focus on these older programming languages that you find on mainframe, and define what should you consider when you're making your decision to migrate away from certain applications running on certain programming languages. And that will hopefully dissipate a bit of the grays that exist around the topic. Is COBOL a very old language? Is it inflexible or not?
You talked about interns. How different is the internship programs from the mentorship program that Open Mainframe have? Or it's like two separate things, or it's kind of, it's just complement each other?
No, that is the mentorship program. We're just calling it the internship program.
I wanted to also add one thing, because just talking this through, it just added one more to our to-do list on the working group. Why not having some sort of more regular engagements in universities? I think if there's universities out there that are touching on the modernization topic in general, not necessarily specific to mainframe, and want to discuss, I think having a virtual roundtable on the topic would be great. And between ourselves and the other members of the working group, I think it would be great to do a virtual lecture with students from any university that is interested. It's one more for the to-do list. It's very long, but I think it's really interesting. And at the same time, if there's people out there working on the academy driving thought leadership on this, I think it's also an interesting group for us to come and be part of this working group.
Well, I do know that you folks are working on, there are a lot of items on your to-do list. If I want to just summarize that, if you reflect on this working group in the last 2-3 years, what would you cite as some of the milestones that you have reached? That is one part of the question. The second part of the question will be more about what are the immediate priorities that you folks are focusing on, even if you look at Bruno's long list, but just look at the main things. So let's just split this into two questions.
I think broadly, if you summarize on achievements, established the working group, we defined, after a couple of iterations, defined our mission. We started our knowledge repository, so that's available, it's out there. It's an ongoing process. We have our regular meetings, and we run for the first year this mentorship program. Out of the mentorship program, we have in progress, obviously, the white papers and the video series, and we have a series of other things on the to-do list, which I've added one more to it, so sorry about that, Misty. And yeah, I think that's kind of, in broad lines, the achievements and what we are currently busy.
Right now, our primary focus is these students, the 2 white papers and the video series, not just getting the content out of them, but making sure they get visibility to their good work. So we tabled just about everything else so that we can really focus on them and ensuring that they're successful and that their work is seen and visible across the industry, and they get recognition for that. When that work is done, sometime in the fall, because the marketing is going to extend even after they're done with their summer work. When that is done, next up is building a thought leadership presentation and white paper. So we already started drafting the outline of that, but we haven't finished writing it yet, so that any of our volunteers that want to go to a conference or an event or do a webinar, they have content at their fingertips. As I mentioned before, a presentation ready to go. So right now that is, the 30% done. So we need to finish that off, but we wanted to prioritize the students for the next few months.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, how do people get involved with the project? Can you share some resources?
The best place to start is our blog, where we point to our landing page with all of our content, as well as how to subscribe to our mailing list. And when you subscribe to the mailing list, you'll be informed of how you can join our monthly meetings.
Misty, Bruno, thank you so much for taking time out today and talk about this working group. Thanks for some great insights there. And I would love to have you folks again to not only see the progress that you folks have made, but what are the next in your pipeline. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. We're always happy to talk about mainframe modernization.